Hi friends, I'm Ashley. Welcome to Darling Cottage Diary, and we are starting this wonderful year of 2026 with a book review of Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Bonne année and Happy New Year to all of you. Very excited to be reopening what has turned into my reading journal. I know I did a couple of non-book reviews in this journal, but it's really turned in. It's where I feel at home doing the book review pages. So I will link all of these previous videos if you're new to my channel in the description box below. Some of them are reviews of books and some of them are just general themes, and I have a couple of vacation memories in here too, but it's going to be my reading journal from now on because that's just what feels comfortable for this journal. Anyway, so getting back to the story, if you haven't read this book, I'm going to tell you I bought it strictly off the cover. I don't follow Book Talk. I don't follow anybody's recommendations about books at all. I will buy on the cover, I will read, I'll flip to a random page and read a few pages in a bookstore. That's how I choose. A handful of people, especially with nonfiction, I will take recommendations, but for the most part, it is just what grabs me at the bookstore. I guess disloyal, but once I find an author I like, I will continue reading them. Anyway, so I found this book on a table at a local bookstore and bought it strictly off of the cover. I am usually not a fantasy person, so I will say that up front. I love Lord of the Rings, I love old fairy tales, but modern fantasy I'm really not into. I typically prefer things like historical fiction. If there are some magical realism elements, I like those. But I'm not a high fantasy kind of person. I'm usually not into fairies. I'm usually not into a lot of things that modern fantasy readers like. That being said, I loved this book so much. I have one tiny little gripe with it, and it is a personal preference within the love story that's in it. The rest of the book was fantastic. I'm very excited to read the second and third book of this series. Before continuing talking about the book, I do want to point out that all of the inks and pens that I'm using in this video were gifted to me from Ferris Press. I will also put their links, as clumsy as I am with them. I was a little jittery today, I don't know why, but I will put their links and my discount code below if you are interested. They have a wide range of price points for anybody looking to get into fountain pens. They're very sustainable, beautiful, and fun to write with. And I'm also going to be showcasing my own work with my Patreon. Quite a few elements from this recent December Happy Mail that I sent out to everyone will be featured as well. And that is a direct support to my channel and to me, and I love that. I'm going to be doing a little bit of changes with the Patreon community coming up. I have some new ideas that I think will be better and just I want to give back more to the people who are directly supporting me, particularly because YouTube has increased their commercial count, which I just realized recently. One change that is coming is that Patreon will be receiving commercial-free videos from now on, this year from now on period, as well as all the other benefits, and a couple of little other changes are coming too. So if you're interested in that, it's just patreon.com/darlingcottagediary, and I would love to see you over there. I also post free content on there occasionally, and I definitely post all of my YouTube videos because I know the algorithm doesn't always tell you when I post, just so that you don't miss any videos. So back to the video itself. Now, regarding Miss Emily Wilde herself, I'm going to try my best to not give any spoilers. I want to give atmosphere and character descriptions, and I'm going to try really hard to not give any spoilers, because I didn't know anything about this book going in. I didn't even read the back. I literally just was like, oh, I love that cover, pick it up, buy it, and I started it. So, starting with Emily Wilde herself, you saw with the front page that I showed you, this is an Edwardian tale. It starts out very historical, like almost scientific historical. She works at Cambridge. She is a dryadologist. So, in this world that is very similar to our own, the study of fairies and the liminal creatures that live between our world and their own, that are all over folklore in in our world. It's a serious scientific study. Like it's not something relegated to literature, which I love so much. Even her, she's got little footnotes. The author included little footnotes of referencing other like pretend studies from other dryadologists. It's so well thought out. The author was fantastic. And so anyway, she is very serious. She is very, I usually don't like female main characters who say that they're homely or say that they're like not pretty, because if anybody has ever read Jane Eyre or Pride and Prejudice, we all know Jane and Elizabeth are beautiful and they're just a little awkward, and that's why, and they don't know how to take care of their hair, and that's why they consider themselves not pretty. And I feel like our heroine also fits in that category, but I don't fault her for it, because her social ineptitude tells me she is either on the spectrum or her IQ is so high that she really has a hard time connecting with other humans. And so I forgive her for her thinking she's not pretty. I'm of the persuasion that I think every single woman on this planet is beautiful, and there are different ways to style yourself to enhance your most beautiful parts of yourself. And I would love to have that conversation with Miss Emily. Unfortunately, she is fiction. Anyway, so she's clumsy, she's awkward, her hair is always falling out all the time. Like she's like that. And she also sees the game of social interaction playing out around her. She can understand all of these things that are happening between people, often better than they can. Like she can read other people like a book, and she has a hard time playing the game herself. And I feel for her in that way, and I love that. But it makes her character very endearing, and in other ways you just like slap your forehead while you're reading it, of like, girl, girl, get it together. She's so scientific. She is so dedicated to her, even internally, she's so dedicated to her craft. It's annoying to her almost that she has to interact with other people to learn about the fairies and learn about all of these creatures that she's hunting in the woods, right? To study them and create a compendium, an encyclopedia of these creatures. And her drive is admirable, and her social ineptitude is often it's often balanced by her intellect. And if you have ever been around a very smart person or a person on the spectrum, you know that recall, pattern recognition, all of these things are magical, like borderline. She herself is borderline magical, even though she's human, because in a very dangerous situation, multiple dangerous situations, she is able to either save herself or save other people, or help someone who is saving her, because she can recall mass amounts of information that she has read and studied and that she is just in love with. And oh, I love her so much. So moving on to our male main character, I will say there is a love story. I don't want to give too much away, but I will say there is a love story. There is no spice. There's like, if you're somebody who likes intense, intimate scenes, probably not a book for you. If you prefer an extremely slow burn / you like romance, however, you're not big into the spicy scenes, this would be a good book for you. I'm all over the spectrum. I can take them or leave them. If I don't like them, I just skip over them. Like, that won't turn me off of a book. But in either case, like that's how this book goes when it comes to her love interest. It is This is a grumpy and sunshine trope. I will say I love a sunshine grumpy. I prefer the woman to be the sunshine and the man to be the grumpy, but I'm not opposed to those being opposite. And they are opposite here. She is the grumpy one and he is the sunshine. There are several times where he has to save her. She has a hand in helping him for the most part. Like, there's not at any point where she like faints and he has to save her kind of thing. If you don't like that, I like that sometimes. Like, as I said, it depends on the book. It depends on the characters. I am not opposed to a damsel in distress at all. And I'm not opposed to a strong female lead either. I like a range and variety. It just depends on the book. And she is a strong female character in her desire to learn. She is an academic to her very, very heart and core. But she is not like the sword-wielding kind. Her pen is her weapon, and I love that. And her mind is her weapon, and I love that. When it comes to him, he is very humble about his own, the only thing he's humble about, because he's quite arrogant on a lot of other fronts, but the only thing he's humble about is his own abilities. And his strengths actually lie in things that she struggles with. So he is extremely charming. He helps her get to know people. He helps her understand some of the social interactions between others, that she cares about the people that they're interacting with, and she just doesn't allow herself and or understand how to. And he helps her with that a lot. He's also kind of a dandy. He likes things to be well tailored. He likes things to be pretty and comfortable. He is the cozy bringer when it comes to wherever they are. So that was a little different, because I'm usually somebody who prefers a man to be, in real life and in fiction, I prefer a man to be the gruff one. I like bringing the cozy. I like I like doing all of those more soft skill things. But I can read about it and understand the dynamic and appreciate the characters, even though they don't apply to my own life. So I like the balance between the two of them very well. The singular problem, the singular complaint I have with this book and this character in particular with the male lead is he's kind of a floozy, and he has a couple of inexplicit, very fade to black dalliances with women around them, and I can't tell if it's just because he's bored, if it's because he's trying to make her jealous, or just because he's like, like a combination of the two, who knows, but that bothers me. If you've seen the movie Maid of Honor with Patrick Dempsey, it's kind of like that dynamic between the two of them. That annoys me a little bit, but again, that's my personal preference. It didn't ruin the book for me in the slightest. It was literally my only complaint. So besides that, they have a very sweet and lots and lots and lots of good, fun banter relationship between the two of them. So it is a cute side quest. The love story is not the main part of the book. The main part of the book is that they are people who work together, they're colleagues, and that's that's the main thing, is that they are there to research for the University of Cambridge, and that is their primary goal. All right, so moving on to atmosphere. The atmosphere is early fall into the very, very deep, dark part of winter. Most of the book happens with heavy snowdrifts. I'm not even going to pretend to try to pronounce how I've been pronouncing the name of where they are in my head. As a linguist, it bothers me that authors don't write a phonetic explanation of how to say names of places in their books. Like, please give that to me. I struggle. My boyfriend told me when I showed him a picture of it, he told me to just call it Legoland. And, you know, anyway, where they are, it is a Nordic type of island. And so it's very cold. It's fall when she gets there, and it's quite cold as the book goes on. And there are two types of fairies in this story. So she has the human villagers. It's a small community of fishermen and people who live locally on the island. Those are all well fleshed out characters, which I also really like. There aren't a whole lot of them, but the ones that we have interaction with are more than NPCs. You know, they are actual whole people that you can imagine, which again shows what a good author that she is. And we know that because Emily struggles with human interaction, she's actually really wonderful at interacting with the fae. There are two types of fairies that she finds and encounters on this island, two, I guess, races, if you want to talk about it. One is a smallish sort. If you know anything about European folklore, something similar to a tomta or a nisa of Scandinavian folklore, that are small. They are generally pretty nice to humans. They can be tricky and mischievous, but they like trade. So if a human offers them something, they are very compelled to offer something back. This one that she interacts with a lot also seems similar to a landervetter, which from what I've read about Norwegian history is very, it's a land spirit would be that translation. So very nature bound. It doesn't look like a cute little, like what we think of as like a cute little gnome or something like that. It's very something that camouflages well in the landscape. And I'm going to read you the description of this fairy because it was one of my very favorite paragraphs in the entire book, just because it was kind of a flouncy tale to begin with. I love that the fairies are very similar to folklore and that they are not just pretty with, like, almost like the Irish fairies, like the winged, sparkly kind of something out of a Disney movie. You know, they're rough and rugged like the landscape. And so I'll read you that passage when I'm writing it later in the video. But she develops this little relationship with one type of fairy, and then we have what they call the tall ones, which are more of a high fairy. They're much more dangerous. They see humans as far lower than them, humans that are more like sport hunting to them. Depending on who the fairy is, depending on who is reigning, they have a very, very complicated courtier system, we'll say. So the courtly fairies also don't have wings, but they are basically made of ice. They have, and everything they have is ice ridden because of where they live. And in their realm, everything is cold and they like it that way. So the descriptions of them are very ethereal and ephemeral, and they kind of come and go, and you almost miss them if you look too closely. And all of the fairies are that way, actually, both kinds. And I liked that part of it, that neither fairy could really care less about humans. It is there's a handful of instances where the local villagers have interactions and are affected by various types of fairies, and Emily tries to help intervene, and she says it's for research and she says it's for science, but you know that that's part of it, but she's fooling herself saying that she doesn't care about these people. And it's one of those times where you slap your forehead and like, girl, just be, it's okay to be a little soft. It's okay to care about things. So so we have the beginning of the book that is very heavily focused on kind of a rustic, it's more of the island itself almost comes to life, and we see more historical elements, and it's almost like a historical fiction at the beginning of the novel, and then it morphs into a more high fantasy book towards the end, where we experience much more magic and we experience much more other realm sort of things, and it becomes much more fantastical. So if you're like me and you're not really into fantasy because it's hard for you to get into it for one reason or another, this is another good book because it really starts out rooted in reality, and it kind of takes you on a journey into the whimsical. And as I have decided that whimsy is my year for, or my word of the year for 2026, I was very happy to end this book right at the beginning of this year. I feel like it's a good footnote. A fairy crouched beside me. It was very small, its frame skeletal with a face full of teeth and two sharp black stones for eyes tucked beneath a raven skin that it seemed to wear as a sort of cloak, but the skin had been poorly cleaned and the eyes were absent. It had all the substance of cobwebs and was both there and not there. Viewed from certain angles, it was merely the shadow of a stone, and from others, a live raven. It was digging around in my pockets with fingernails the length again of its spindly arms, and sharp enough to slit my throat without my noticing the injury immediately. So that passage describing one of the smaller landscape type of fairy, I loved that it was almost grotesque. And she goes on to describe it a little more fully. And I just loved that it wasn't pretty, because a lot of other things in the book are pretty, and I loved that he's not. And because at least when us Americans, I think of fairies, we think of something very ethereal and pretty. And the fact that this piece of landscape kind of came to life and could hurt her, but she was there to try to talk to it and try to connect with it. I really loved it. Hooked me into the book. It was quite early in the book. So the second quote that I wrote was simply, well, name the time when it would be convenient for you to receive a declaration of love, because this perfectly encapsulates their relationship. And it made me, this whole, like the 3 pages around this quote made me laugh out loud the entire time, and also swoon at the same time, which is actually quite hard to do. So it's a wonderful book. The final detail I wanted to add in this page, in addition to her cottage that she's staying in, the courtly fay castle, if you read the book, or if you have read the book, you will understand all of the tiny details that I added on this page. Like, it will make sense to you. If you haven't read it, it's going to give you the vibe. But every single piece that went on here was to communicate something from the story. This last part, that envelope that happened to be in the December Ephemera Club, because it's kind of ethereal and has stars and sleighs and all of these, very fairy type of things on it, I assumed that there would be an invitation inside there, but we can't see the invitation until we open it, and it would magically pop out in a trail of fairy dust and ice and probably enchant us, and then we would be doomed forever as humans. But I wanted to seal it with a white sparkly wax, and The seal itself is an antique seal that says in French, always turning but constant, which I feel like really encapsulates how the male love interest is to her. Like he's always flitting around her and always just moving, and he's always there, which is actually kind of annoying to her quite frequently, but he's a constant, comfortable presence that she comes to love. And so that was the final part. And if you enjoyed this, I make videos every Sunday. And if you are interested in taking part in this a little bit more intensely, feel free to check out my Patreon or my shop and follow me for more. I'm very happy that you're here. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I hope you have a wonderful week. Bye, friends.